Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. Today I have Grace with us. Hi, Grace.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm sure we'll get into a ton of different things.
Oh, yes, yes, for sure.
So tell me, is there room for me to cry? Is the devil all inside my mind? I don't wanna die like this, I wanna live my life.
Okay, Grace, you're doing a lot of things out there, especially to create awareness and the things you've been through. Wow.
Yeah, it's it's been quite a journey. I've actually only been doing it for about 2 years now. I've been doing advocacy, so I'm still fairly new, but I've been doing it long enough to where I've seen a lot of different things. I've obviously been through domestic violence myself, so I've learned so much over the last 2 years, and of course, through my own lived experience, which I really use my own lived experience to, paint a picture of what the cycle of abuse really looks like.
Okay, which is
Yeah,
really important so people know. So many people
exactly.
can't recognize it. When you're in it, you definitely have no clue because you're in it,
No. Yeah.
right? So start wherever you'd like as far as sharing your story. And I mean, I looked at your Instagram too again this morning and I'm like, wow, she's like really educating people. I love that. So you take
Thank
it
you.
however you want and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, when I share my story, I tend to jump around to different time periods a bit because, as everyone knows, there's so much that goes on, especially when you're with them for multiple years. There's a lot to cram in there with your story. But I really believe with my advocacy, I've taken the stance of the belief that storytelling is how people really identify the cycle of abuse. Without storytelling and survivors actually talking about what it looked like in the beginning, what it looked like when they started seeing red flags, you can't get that full picture of like, how did I find myself in this?
Right.
But when we tell our full story, you can see the cycle over a long period of time. And so, yeah, I met him all the way back in 2018 is when I met my ex. And he was much older than me. He was 14 years older than me. He is
Okay.
14 years older. So that was a little glimpse of like, maybe this isn't the right situation. Not that age gaps are always not okay, but I was only 20 at the time when I met him. So in that case, red flag right there. But I didn't care at the time. I was like, "You know what? This person seems super charismatic." He had that drawl of really bringing people into him and always had a lot of women around him, which is a big part of many women's abuse stories. Their abuser was someone who just got women all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just swooped them up. It made him seem like the prize. It made him seem like he was on a pedestal already, you know?
And then he was choosing you.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so people I'm sure people listening relate to that and that theme continues on throughout the whole time I was with him, that theme of him getting women easily and trying to weaponize that against me and making me feel like he was something to be attained and chased after. So that was a lot of the glue that held the relationship together, which sounds weird to say, but it was part of the glue that held the cycle of abuse together because a common fear is always having that fear of missing out. What if I walk away from him this time and now he has his big wake up call? He's going to have a line of women waiting for him. So that to
I
someone
think
who
that
has an
that's
experience, yeah,
yes, yes, that you just nailed it right there.
right. So I'll get into that more throughout the episode, but like I said from the start, it was I met him in an environment that he was working in where he had a lot of people who really liked him. He was very well liked. And so that I believe is what drew me in right at first. And
Mhm.
yeah, I saw some glimpses, but I don't even like to call them red flags. I think sometimes that word can make people feel like they should have seen it right away. But I call
Yeah.
it more like glimpses of things that make you go, that doesn't feel quite right in my gut, but I'm just going to ignore it because I'm already so into him. And For me, the obsession started really quickly. It was that quick draw to him, like I said. And then I was hooked like right away, right from the beginning. And I think a big part of why I got hooked in so fast is because we were what, and I hate this word too, but we were like a situationship at first. We weren't actually full on a couple. He hadn't called me his woman right from the start. We didn't start officially dating until probably maybe close to a year and a half after I met
Oh,
him.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was really me lowering that standard of what I knew was right versus wrong, what my faith told me was right versus wrong as far as meeting someone and the person who would be good for me. I really let a lot of those standards go because of the manipulation that was happening. And I found myself in that in between with him where it was like, well, I'll accept less as long as I can get those breadcrumbs.
Right. Oh,
um,
gosh. Not the red flags, but the glimpses. Can you describe some of those that you can, reflect back to?
Absolutely. Yeah, and my story was very much so that I saw big signs from the start. I could see that he was not a good man, but it was always that hope of, well, what's the potential? Because again, I was so young. And what I really want people to realize what I'm saying is it's all designed this way. The cycle of abuse is designed so that you let your standards down, so that you just get so wrapped up in them. But some of those glimpses, I would say just him continually pushing my boundaries. And then if I didn't want to do something, like if I didn't want to become physical with him in an intimate way, because we weren't even a couple yet. And again, I was lowering those standards for myself in many ways of what I was allowing back then. But if he would try to push my boundaries in that area and then I expressed not wanting to do something, he would then act super depressed and go off and be pouty and throw a little tantrum and go sleep the rest of the day. So
Oh,
he would
geez.
act like he was going into a little depressive episode when I would not be comfortable with doing something. But what does that do? That reverses victim and offender. So we call it DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. That's what abusers are always doing. So now I wasn't allowed to voice a boundary and he was making himself the one that looks like the hurt person. So now I'm
Yeah.
comforting him and I'm saying, "Oh no, no, no. Well, let's do that. It's okay." Or, "You know what? I'm so sorry. Let's make this better." And now you're comforting the person who's hurting you.
Right.
So, that was
Ooh,
one.
yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
But how would you know, especially being so young and you're just like, "Oh, this guy's just charming, maybe I am hurting his feelings. Poor guy."
Right. You don't know and this can happen to someone at any age, but
Yeah.
I would have never been able to explain these things at the time. In fact, I never even thought of the word abuse until probably like 3 or 4 years later. That word had never even crossed my mind majority of my time with him, and I can get more into that. I just thought I was in a relationship that was a bit chaotic, a bit unhealthy, and we just had different communication styles. I never thought like the word control never came to mind. And that's what why many survivors stay because they just think, well, maybe him and I are just incompatible. So they try to be more compatible for him and they try to appease him, the abuser more. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. So I think another glimmer of like a red flag or something that I thought might be wrong was just his erratic behavior. He was very spontaneous, but spontaneous in the way that like his decision making, he would make spontaneous financial choices. He was just erratic, like an erratic personality where his mood was always changing and he was always I don't know, thinking about moving somewhere different. And that kind of behavior is a real key indicator of someone who's narcissistic or abusive.
Mhm.
So that was the second thing.
Yeah. Was he like very high, then very low? Was he roller coaster mostly?
Yeah, very roller coaster. And sort of nitpicking me about small things. I remember, in fact, it's a funny example, but one time we were at some kind of amusement park and I didn't want to ride a roller coaster with him. It's funny you even say that word roller coaster. I didn't want to ride a roller coaster with him and he got so mad at me for that he gave me the silent treatment the whole drive home, the whole night, the whole next day. Like I was being punished just for saying no to something so random. So it's
Wow.
those tiny
Which we know
punish.
that's abuse too.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
sounds like the strangest example, but them getting mad at you for the smallest things. One time he got me flowers, which is also part of the cycle. They'll buy you things, they'll get you the flowers, they'll do all the nice things. And I didn't have a vase to put the flowers in. So I put them in this little bucket or like an empty blender we had in our kitchen that was just like, didn't have a blade in it. So I was trying to preserve the flowers in there that he bought me. And he got so mad at me for that. I don't know how to be a woman. You don't know how to take care of the house. You don't know how to do anything right. Other women I've been with would never do that. You're so silly. Like, you're stupid for putting flowers in there. So he always had a pattern of making me feel like I wasn't a real woman. I didn't know how to take care of a house, and that other women were like better than me.
Did you start to believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I believed it more as time went on, though. Like the longer I was with him, it started to really feel like the truth of, especially because I was so much younger than him. So he would also say other women knew how to work out better than me. They looked better. They took care of themselves. But I struggled to be a healthy person because of how he was hurting me.
Yeah.
So it's actually that's why it makes you feel so crazy. The very person who's actually making you wither away, lose weight, gain weight, you can't, your body literally starts to reject them.
Yeah.
The person causing that is now accusing you of not being enough in all of these ways. So that was another big, big theme.
And did you feel like you really loved him? Like couldn't live without him, all the things like that
Oh, yeah.
as you're being brainwashed?
Yeah. Right from the start with him, I mean, I had a strong trauma bond. And basically, a trauma bond is when the person who is causing the pain, you also feel like they're the only person who can comfort you. They're the only person whose arms you want to run into, even though they're the one causing all the pain. And that started right from the first time I became physical with him, like intimately. I would say that that first day is when the trauma bond was instant. So
Mm,
it created an addiction instantly, and trauma bonds are just like being in active addiction. That's why I always tell loved ones, if you're trying to force someone out of abuse, there's nothing you can do to expedite that process. There's nothing. You're dealing with someone who may be in that active addiction mindset, not that they want to be mistreated or have chosen this, but their brain is operating such that they have to hit that rock bottom point. There's nothing you
mhm.
can do to force them out. And that
Yeah.
was the whole time I was with him. I was completely addicted.
Yeah. I've been there before too. I can remember like when I was it was in my 30s and this is the one person that was not physically abusive, but the mental abuse was just horrific to where when I finally went to a therapist to talk about him and like trying to get past it because I'd always get sucked back in. I'd always go back. And she said something that'll stick with me forever. But that's what made it click for me too. She said, he is like heroin to you. And I
Yes.
was like, yes, that is so not that I ever did heroin, but just as
Yeah,
far as addiction and how addicting heroin is. And that's what he was to me. No matter what
exactly.
he did, what he said, I thought he was it. I thought that's the only person that could ever love me because that's what he made me believe. So
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's perfect. And speaking of that, I always tell people it was so scary because I became willing, mentally willing to lose anything, anyone, no matter what I had to sacrifice to be with him. So if
Yeah.
people tried to draw a firm boundary line with me and say, "We're not going to be friends with you anymore because you keep this is self-destructive at this point, or if my family tried to draw boundary lines, I was so numb to that. All I cared about was being on good terms with him. So
Yeah.
I didn't even care what I lost at the time. And
Right.
that's is terrifying. But also, the other element to it was that my ex was a serious addict as well, like an actual drug addict. He was addicted to crack cocaine, heavily addicted to crack. But from the outside, he was a great looking guy. He's like I said, he got a lot of women, really good looking, had jobs, was charismatic.
Yeah.
So you think an addict looks a certain way, and that's just not true. I mean,
Right.
it can be anything.
Was he
And
actively using most of the time you were together?
I don't know that it was necessarily most of the time, but it was long time periods he was.
Okay.
He when I was with him, he went to rehab probably about I think he went to rehab 3 or 4 probably like 4 or 5 times when I was with him. So I was with him for about 4 years altogether, I would say.
Okay.
And then he went to rehab about yeah, probably about 4 times in that time span, but he's been to rehab about 14 times, maybe
Wow.
closer to 16 now in his life. So it's that element of yes, they do have an active addiction and that can be part of their personal issues, but that's not the reason they're abusing you.
Yeah.
Abuse can be heightened when they are under the influence. That nature about them can rear its worst head. It can come to the surface. But at its core, that's not why they're an abuser. They're a domestic abuser because they're still choosing to mistreat you, and it's way
Mhm.
deeper than that. So
Did
I
you used to
thought
Oh, sorry.
no, I just thought I, um I actually thought it was just an us against the problem mentality. I thought he's an addict, so I need to be his woman. It's us against the addiction. But I didn't realize it was really him also mistreating me.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Did you used to think, "Oh, if he wasn't using, he'd be better." Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what makes the cycle vicious. If there's some
Mhm.
element to them that you feel like is covering this potential in them, we think the potential is just like right below the surface. That's the biggest mistake people make. That his potential is just waiting to blossom and if you don't wait it out a little longer, that next person's going to ignite that in him. And that's completely false.
Right.
For anyone listening, that's not going to happen. So I thought it was like a carrot constantly being dangled in front of my face. Well, I'm just about to get sober, Grace. If you just wait for me through this rehab program, then I'm going to finally be sober because this program's different. So it was just years of that cycle of him saying, "Well, I'm sober now, so here we are.
Yeah.
This is perfect. Let's keep it going."
And you wanted to believe him, you loved him. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, 100%.
The vicious cycle. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And the other thing is he always posed as being very honest and forthcoming. That might sound opposite to what you would think, but he would always tell me all the ways he was mistreating his exes, all the ways that he wished he had done things differently, all the ways he was controlling to his exes. He would tell me these things. All the ways he was using drugs in the past. He gave me like a full rundown of just tons of things that I had even verified myself were true. So when they pose as being extremely forthcoming, that's actually used to suck you in further because you think, well, at least he's being honest. Must mean that he's really turned a new leaf with me.
Yeah.
So you give them a clean slate. Well, but it continues.
Sure does. Wow. Would he become physical with you?
So he was very physical with the sexual abuse that I dealt with him. I'm not sure if you ever covered that topic on this podcast, but I
No.
could go into that a
Yeah, you
little.
can absolutely cover it.
Yeah, he was very physical with sexual abuse, and that is a form of physical abuse. That's what I want people
Mhm.
to know. But
Mhm.
he was extremely a rough person, very literally taking out his anger on women through sex. And I don't have to give a ton of specifics, but
Yeah.
coercing us into doing different things. He was very much sadistic. He got a thrill out of causing other people pain. So you can kind of fill in the blanks
Yeah.
there of
Right.
a bunch of different stuff. But that was his main form of physical abuse, to the point where it actually led to the first time I almost called 911, which was when he assaulted me in that way. It was such like a violent interaction, and he was smoking crack. So that was always the excuse. Well, I only became sexually violent with you because I was on crack. So, and saying this out loud, it's like, wow, that combination is, why didn't you leave him then? Well, when you would wake up with him the next morning, he would be sober again. He would explain it perfectly. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I exposed you to those things. But yeah, I ran into an incident where he coerced me into buying drugs with him. He said, I need you to be there by my side tonight because I want to try seeing if I can possibly have a drink without going and getting drugs. So that's how he would coerce me. He would say, I need you to help me because if you're there, then you can be like my babysitter and it's not going to lead to me doing more. Well, that was his grand plan. I'll drink with me around and then he'll somehow bring drugs into it and make it look like an oopsie thing. And I give that example to show people a big part of abuse is them framing everything as an accident and a misunderstanding. They want you to think they keep stumbling into being physical with you. They keep doing it as like an oopsie thing. That their true nature didn't actually mean to expose you to any of this. It was just a big misunderstanding and it just got a little out of hand,
Hmm.
right?
Would it ever be your fault because you were watching him?
Yeah. So, more so my fault in the sense that he would just wake up the next day and say, oh my gosh, that really got out of hand. Um, let's just agree that our experiment, right? He now said our little experiment, as if I chose to do it too, didn't go well. So let's just not do that again. Well, months and months would pass, and he would kind of bring it up another time. He would have me pick him up from somewhere and he'd bring drugs in my car. And now I'm stuck with him in my vehicle. I can't forcefully push him out of my car and he has drugs right in front of me. So just again, made it seem like an oopsie thing. He told me he just ran into someone on the street and they just offered him. No, it's not how that works.
Right.
So, my point is, I would end up in situations where now drugs were around me quite often. And that's when he would become like sexually coercive or violent. And he would frame the whole incident as it just got a little crazier than I anticipated. So, that was his way of gaslighting me and saying he didn't intend for that to happen. It just, it just happened.
Over and over and over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So, I always just excused it because I think the next day he would just wake up, like I said, and it's like, "What do you want for breakfast? Well, how can I make this up to you? We'll do anything you want today. I'll treat you like a queen." So I would want him to be the person comforting me after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They're good at the brainwashing for sure. So were you ever were you ever to the point to where he could see you were upset about it? Like it was like the next morning and you're like, "No, that's not all going to be okay." And no, you're not just fixing it and I'm not going to be princess for the day and all the things. Did you ever
yeah,
like
especially after the incident where he became very sexually violent and I almost called 911. The next morning, I woke up and he slept till late that day just to probably avoid accountability. And I think that's one time I said, you know what, this just isn't going to work. And but somehow he would rope me back in. But there were many times throughout the relationship, I actually tried to initiate a breakup. And I said, this isn't going to work. I just can't do this anymore. But then I just could never stay away because he would call me. Sometimes he would leave me completely alone for 6 weeks. He wouldn't reach out for 6 to 8 weeks. And I would think, man, if he was really abusive, wouldn't he be blowing me up off the hook, like blowing up my phone, showing up? It didn't always appear as it said it would online. So
Right.
then that would slowly work on me. Maybe he's not as bad as I thought. Maybe this time and space has given him time to think. So he would purposely leave me alone for long time periods, and then he would call out of the blue. And I was already then set up to cave at that point because I'm like
Ugh.
dying, thinking, oh my gosh, he really wasn't that bad. I would
Ugh.
immediately get back with him. And the other thing was he was a personal trainer. So he would always show me texts from his female clients, like praising him. A lot of his female clients would send him messages like, "You've changed my life. You've helped me reach my physical goals. You're like changing my mental health." Like they would just praise him. And he would purposely show me those texts to elicit me feeling like, man, I'm missing out on a true gem here.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's what he wanted
Yeah.
you to think.
Yeah.
Oh, and they usually are so charming to the outside world where people would be like, "There's no way. There's no way he behaves like that," because they have no
Yeah.
clue. Yeah.
So he blamed all the mistreatment on his addiction with crack, which resonated as the truth to me because I'm like, well, yeah, smoking crack would make you, a little crazy, right? A lot
Mhm.
crazy. But I totally missed the pattern of coercive control. The always accusing me of cheating and always monitoring me, not wanting me to have social media, not wanting me to have Snapchat, which I didn't even have Snapchat, but he constantly accused me of having that. He would try to log into my accounts, just always being like on my case about
Was he
everything.
actually doing things that he shouldn't be doing on those? Did you ever find out of anything like that?
Yeah, well, he was the one actually cheating often. There's not a ton of times that I could prove beyond a doubt until I found transactions of him reaching out to escorts. That was the other problem. He was constantly contacting escorts, paying them through Venmo for like a video chat, a video call. I would download like his Cash App. Like one time I got access to his phone, so I downloaded his Cash App statement. I found he had Cash App previously downloaded, so I reopened the app and there were tons of transactions on there, but he always said, "Oh no, I just met up with them. I was just getting drugs. I didn't actually do anything." Well, at the
Of
time you
course
want you,
not.
you try to believe it because you're just delusional at that point.
Yeah.
So he was always the one actually accusing me of what he was guilty of.
Yeah, that's what they usually do. That's why I was curious to know what the heck was he doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was always so hard to prove. And he would say, no, it was when we were on a break. Because when I kept continually trying to break up with him, there were many, many periods of time when we were technically not together. So he would just say, oh, it was during that time. So I could never like just nail him, you
How
know?
convenient, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
What how did you finally leave? How were you finally done?
Well, there was a lot in between there. What ended up happening was, again, he kept roping me back in, and eventually he relapsed on drugs again. And he was threatening that he wanted to just not be here anymore. He would threaten, suicide, and but that was all a tactic to get everybody all worked up over him and to get me to stay with him, which is a common abuse tactic. And I ended up finding this rehab program for him that was affiliated with a church actually. It's a pretty strong program. It's a good program for sure. But for someone like him, it was the perfect thing to weaponize. So I didn't want him to do what he was saying. And so I tried to find a program for him and tried to find answers. And he ended up agreeing to go to this year-long program if I would agree to stay with him, if I would agree to marry him if he completed this. So see how that works. And
Mhm.
he ended up actually doing it, committing to it, and he just posed as like the perfect student there, the perfect program person, and got me to, he started writing me letters. He was allowed to have some communication with family that way. And that was the perfect setup because I now couldn't have like a temperature check on his actual behavior because we were only talking over the phone and through
Yeah.
him writing to me. But the program thought, well, we're putting the right measures in place for these guys because they're only allowed to have so much access to their, people, which is the goal. You want to get them into a place where they're going to heal and grow on
Mhm.
their own. But it was the perfect scenario for him because he can now keep access to me, but not enough that I'll like see his actual behaviors. And he proposed to me when he was in that program. Family was allowed to visit him. Like they allowed family to come up halfway through his time there, and he asked me to marry him. I said yes. I mean, it was just insanity.
Well, you were probably elated, like, "Finally,
Yeah, like
finally, he's gonna be
and
different."
he's at like such a strong program. They're really like getting through to him now because they're so strict and oh my gosh. So it was just like a whole new fairy tale now.
Of course.
And again, missing those signs of like them pressuring you to always be taking the next step. So now the next step was we got to get engaged right away and we have to get married right after I graduate. He wanted me to marry him the day after he graduated this program. So at this point, my family kicked me out of the house. I was still living with my parents at the time. They thought they were doing the loving thing. Like, Grace, if you're going to continue down this path, we can't support you and you're going to have to like figure something else out. So I went to live with my aunt and uncle, and they were supportive of me because my ex had really won them over. He had really smooth talked them. So I was like, perfect. I have everybody I need, like doing what I need them to do. So this is that addict mentality.
Mhm.
I was willing to lose anyone, and I was now sort of manipulating anybody who would support me, only telling them one side of the story. And yeah, I started lying to everybody. I was just like focused on one thing only, no matter what it cost.
Wow. Okay, what happens when he gets out?
Yeah, good question. Mm. So basically, throughout the time he was at the program, I was still continuing to see red flags come up all the time. I was allowed to have a visit with him. We went on a trip together to visit his family. He was allowed to do like an at home visit. So I went on that trip with him, and he just treated me poorly the whole time. Again, coercing me into being intimate with him when I wasn't ready for that again yet. I was still in the place where I still wanted him to show me he was actually different, but he was continuously always pressure, pressure, pressure. That's really all you need to hear about this story is they are continually rushing you to take the next step and prove to them that you're in this. So he would always
Mhm.
tell me, "You're not committed enough. You need to prove to me that you're in this, right? You're my ride or die. That you'll follow me anywhere, anywhere." And he would often call me like ungrateful. He would say, "You're just ungrateful about how hard I'm trying for us." Like now the new thing was I'm up here at this program sacrificing my life to make a better life for us. I left my job behind. I left everything to do this program for you. And that was the next thing that was thrown in my face. And you're not grateful for all the hard work I'm doing. I'm working this hard blue collar job up here in the freezing cold. And you're just like sitting pretty at home and you're not grateful. That was always the next thing. So, yeah, that led all the way into, like we literally got married up there. I'm not gonna specify exactly where.
You did get married. Oh,
Oh,
goodness.
yeah, we got married, yeah, so yeah. And just to specify again, like, this was a time in my life where I was in a situation where I was acting completely out of character. So the woman I am today, completely different from this time period in my life. I was
Yeah.
acting the opposite of what my true character was because of coercive control. So, yeah, I tried everything I could to like put the brakes on cuz I continually saw things were wrong, but I could not stop the train. I couldn't get off the train. It felt like there was no stop for me to like jump out. And yeah, we got married up there with his people, like near where his program was. I'm not going to be like super specific on
Yeah,
here,
no, that's
but
fine.
it just right from the day we got married, he just showed his other side again, and I was like, in that moment, I'm like, "What have I done? What have I done?" I just felt like my world just came crashing down. I remember the morning after we got married, he got in a tiff with his program director. The director of his program was like a really solid guy, just like a good person. And my ex got in this argument with him, just like blowing things up. And I remember like, oh my gosh, he, of course, the day after he gets everything he wants, he now goes back to being himself. And I remember his program director saying, I should have not let you graduate. I knew you were screwing around or something.
Oh,
Basically saying I should have held you accountable when my gut instinct was telling me to not let you continue on. And I was like, crap. Oh my gosh,
because he has you locked in now.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember thinking like, why didn't someone say something? But my ex had everybody so wrapped around his finger. They truly thought he was doing well. But I think they were experiencing the same things. They got glimpses of him maybe not
Mhm.
acting in integrity and doing the wrong thing at times, but he had a way of always concealing his behavior such that it wasn't a red flag enough to really like nail him on it. He was very
Right.
covert. So I got trapped, and immediately it was like, I don't want you on social media. I don't want you calling your parents because your parents are against us. And now that
Oh,
we're married,
jeez.
you need to grow closer to me and stop like clinging to your parents. You need to get used to like us being a couple. So there you see.
It's probably what you did too.
Yeah.
Oh, your
And
poor parents, they were probably devastated.
they were. And
And
at
your
that point,
friends, just all these people that know you and see these changes in you and they know what you're going through. That's just so tough to watch.
yeah. But the whole problem with this whole thing was that he was so good at apologizing. I mean, there's a reason on my page I talk about the apology phase and abuse more than I do the blow up phase, because the apology phase is even more part of it. That's the glue that holds everything. When they say, and not every abuser will say, I did you wrong and I'm sorry, right? Some of them are more, they don't even seem like they're taking accountability. But my ex, what he would do was he would act like he was taking full accountability for his behavior. This is why it's going to be different. This is how I'm going to ensure that it's different. So you need to forgive me and move on. So the fact that he was so crafty at apologizing, that's why it kept going on and on into marriage. And even when we were married, and he would say, don't talk to your family while we're on our honeymoon. I don't want you talking to them at all while we're on our honeymoon. He would then apologize a few days later and say, you know what, maybe that was wrong. You can talk to them. Just enough because he would sense that I was starting to repel him and say,
Yeah.
"No, I'm not okay with that." So then he would get me back under control by being like, "You know what? Okay." But he would just go about it more covert next time. He would just pout about it. Like if I then contacted my family, he would just act like pouty about it instead of outright saying, "You're not allowed." So they're still doing the same thing. Do you see?
Absolutely. What did his family think? Did he have them all snowed over too, or were they aware of his true behaviors?
They, I did have a good relationship with his mom for many years, but I think they had just as a hard time as I did. I think there were many times where she was very strong and would say, Grace, this behavior is unacceptable. We would not blame you if you walked away from him. I mean, they would call it out. But in
Yeah.
the same way, he was very good at apologizing to them too. So he would have these big sit down talks with his loved ones and say, Man, I was wrong. Man, I messed up. Here's how I'm going to make it right. So I can have grace for them and realize that I think they were just as manipulated too, because I
For
saw that side
sure.
of them where they saw it too. But at the end of the day, I had to cut off those relationships totally, never speak to his mom again because their energy is tied to his. And I'll talk about how
Yeah.
I left him eventually, but I had to completely cut all of his people off, or I would probably have fallen back into it again with him
Yeah.
because they just reminded
Oh,
me of him,
of course.
you know? So,
And they're the scariest, the ones that are, like, charming and they do all that apology stuff, and "I'm gonna do this, and it's just gonna be better, and this is how I'm gonna change it." It's like textbook. They all do the
exactly.
same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And there was just so much stuff while we were married. It was mainly the heightened sexual abuse. He would like physically like tug at me when I didn't want to do something. He would like not ever hold me down, and that was the confusing part. Sexual coercion is not necessarily them holding you down or doing something outright physical. It's more so them punishing you emotionally if you don't do what they want. So now I knew if I don't constantly give him what he wants, if I am not at his beck and call any hour of the day, he's going to punish me by silent treatmenting me, not doing what I want that weekend, just sleeping in a different room than me. That was a big one. He would sleep downstairs and throw a little tantrum if just he made me feel like the manipulative one too. They make you feel like you're mistreating them. That's the whole
Mhm.
point. Okay.
Yeah.
They want you to question, am I abusing him? Am I am I withholding sex from him? They want you to like really get in your own head and start
Yes.
saying, maybe I am hurting him. That's how they
Yeah.
reverse victim and offender.
Yeah. Or, like, they love to always say, "You're just crazy. You're crazy." And then you really start to believe, "Maybe I am crazy." For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And what happened was like I would say throughout we were only married for 1 full year, but we were only living together for like 6 months before I left him. So it got bad again pretty quickly. So it was just a constant pattern of him reversing victim and offender. And I remember one text he sent me, I can read it. It said, "This was my fear. Everything I poured out to you the other day about not being enough. You talk about guys and girls not being friends, then you're messaging guys. Congratulations, Grace, you broke me. And now I've lost everything again. You, myself, my mind, sobriety." So, what that text is saying, right? If you put it into context, well, I wasn't actually messaging guys behind his back, but he was continually accusing me of the things he was actually doing, and
Mhm.
then telling me that I destroyed every aspect of him, like I ruined his sobriety because he relapsed again, or I have torn him down as his wife, and it really made me get in my head like, did I break him? Like, I'm pretty sure I'm trying my hardest to be a good wife. And they truly make you think you're abusing them. And
Yeah.
anyone who's going through that right now, I know you're shaking your head like, yeah, I get that.
Mhm.
So that was the whole pattern of being married to him was being controlled, but never being able to put my finger on like proving it beyond a doubt.
Mhm. Can you talk a little bit about, like, even during this time while, now you're married and things keep happening and he's, like, punishing you, sleeping in other rooms and all the things. What was going through your head during those times to where you wouldn't just be like, "I'm sick of this shit. I'm done."
Yeah. I mean, mainly what would go through my mind was, again, he would always pose that he was the one who desired to seek reconciliation after a big incident where he would relapse or become borderline physically abusive with me. He did end up becoming physically abusive, but after he would tell me, F my family, you're a C word, you don't do anything right, stuff like that. He would then act like he wanted to be the peacemaker. So he would say, well, let's go meet with our pastor because we were going to a church at the time. He would say, "Let's meet with our pastor. I set up a meeting. I really want to like just come clean about my behavior and like show everyone why I'm going to be different." Because I would go to people and say, "My husband's mistreating me." And our pastor and his wife would come back and say, "Yeah, he's abusing you." Like my pastor's wife sat me down and said, "She's the first one who ever said to me, 'Grace, this is abuse.'" Thank God, because there's a lot of churches that will like not see it, they'll excuse it,
Yeah.
things like that. And so he knew that I was getting that view into reality from them. So he would always tell me, "Keep our problems in the marriage. Why do you keep running to everybody else the second we have problems, the second we have a little tiff? You run to all your friends and you run to people at church and tell them our business." So then he would take the that's why he would take things a step further and act like he wanted to be the peacemaker. So he would set up a
Mm,
meeting where he would pose to take full accountability. So then I'm looked at like the one, well, he's taking accountability. We'll leave it. They would always tell me, "Grace, it's your decision. We'll like let you decide what way you want to go." Well, as a victim of abuse, I think I needed someone to be like, "Get out, you don't have a choice." But
yeah.
they could only control that so much,
But
but
do you think you would have listened looking back?
I that's the thing, no, I would
Yeah.
have probably looking back, if they had said, "Grace, we're calling your family and we're gonna try to force you out of this." I would have started profusely lying to everybody. I would have tried
Mm,
anything to get them off my back. So oftentimes survivors will start to reach out for help just because they want that temperature check on reality. They want to hear from someone like, is this abuse or is it not? But they don't want that person to then stick their hand in it and be like, you have to leave him now.
right.
That's what I was doing. So if they were to say, you must leave him now, I would have just started profusely lying and saying,
Right.
like, stay away from us.
Yeah. Not telling them anything more. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's why I stayed with him for so long was he was very good at setting up counseling sessions for him. We then started counseling with this couples counselor and her husband, and like that was the most confusing time period for me because they would meet with us together. So now you're sitting with your abuser and your counselor. Well, you're not going to how do you be honest in that setting? It's
Right.
unethical.
Yes.
So,
He was good.
yeah, that's why the person who's causing all the trauma is the person who's aiming for reconciliation because that's what they want. And it's just a complete nightmare.
The
It really is.
manipulation is just like on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Wow.
And until, especially with churches, if someone were to come to me and tell me that their church or their couples counselor or their therapist is telling them that they think abuse is an anger management problem, I already know that they don't have the correct understanding because it's
Mhm.
more they're essentially saying this is just a problem with his emotional regulation. He needs to like tap into his inner wounds and learn emotional regulation. That is not why they're being so evil to you. It is
Yeah.
an active choice that he's making to mistreat you. And we know it's not an anger problem because the second the police show up, they're the most put together. Oh, here's exactly what happened, officer. She's
Mm.
actually crazy. They have the perfect story and they're Mr. Calm, Cool, and Collected.
Yes.
If they really had an anger problem, why aren't they punching their boss and, punching random people at the grocery store and knocking like okay, so
Such a good
churches,
point.
yeah. So the second someone thinks it's an anger management problem, that's someone who you should not be taking counsel from.
Mhm.
Yeah. And really, when we met with that couples counselor, that's what made it rear its head the most. That is what drove me to complete insanity. I started having nightmares and I was just in so much physical distress. I think I weighed like 99 pounds at the time because
Gosh.
I literally felt insane. I couldn't work properly. I couldn't eat regularly. I just thought like I'm going to be stuck with him forever because how am I ever gonna like detach from him
Yeah.
successfully?
Right.
And I remember one night we were meeting with our couples counselor, and I was telling them some kind of story about how my ex would like I caught him meeting up with escorts, right? I remember one night I brought this up and he paused the conversation. My ex said, pause, pause, pause. And he said, do you know that when Grace and I were dating, she actually came with me to meet up with an escort to get to like do something. No, let me back up. She actually came with me to like buy drugs essentially, such that she like was a complicit in this or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He said that in front of our couples counselor. But the context of that is that he would physically force me to drive with him in the car, to the point where one time I was trying to stop the vehicle. I was trying to stop the vehicle and he started grabbing the steering wheel and he would like coerce me into these situations with him. Now, years later, he's bringing it up to our couples counselor saying, did you know that Grace actually was okay with this behavior? And I remember them sitting there, the counselors, and they were like, oh, they were like, wow, we didn't know that. I'm like, "Are you completely blind?" There's a man 14 years older than me sitting next to me who I can give you all this evidence for how he's super abusive to me, and
Yeah.
you're now, like, taking his word and saying that now I should be investigated, like,
You
held under the
probably felt
microscope?
so defeated at that moment.
Yeah, I was just like, "Wow, these are the people we're getting counsel from who are sitting there like, oh," as if this is a new piece of information that changes something.
Because you probably didn't speak up after he said that, right? You're afraid?
I just sat there, yeah, I sat there after that, and I
Yeah.
just was, like, staring at this little pillow. I remember, like, the pillow I was staring at because I was just, like, just completely dissociated at that point,
Yeah.
and that time period led into the night that I left him. Things just continued to, like, spiral, but we would have really good days in between. We would have, like, the best day ever together, and it ultimately led into that one day we went on a date together. And he knew at this point that I was now trying to actively try to like get myself out of this cycle with him. I had told him I was leaving him several times at this point. I had sat him down and said, "Hey, I think I want to get a divorce," which you should never do with your
Yeah.
abuser. Okay, that is like the number one thing. You have to leave them quietly.
Right.
So he now knew Grace could slip through my fingers at any point. Sh she could walk out, and that's why that pattern picked up even more. So, one day we went on this, like, day date together. We went mini golfing, and I think we went to dinner. And then again, he tried roping me into one of those situations. He's like, I just wanna try having a drink. I just wanna try seeing if I can have a beer, just 1 beer." And at this point, I was so sick of him harping on me about, "I'm the leader. You need to like let me be the leader of this relationship as a man, blah blah blah." So I was like, "You know what? I was so fed up at this point. I'm like, let's do your plan then. We'll do your plan. That sounds good." And I think I wanted him to show his full colors again because I was
Yeah.
already like, I need to get away from this guy. But I had no clue the night would get so bad. He ended up buying alcohol, but, bringing me with him in the car. Again, this is what he would do. He would always bring me with him when he had this kind of plan, and to make me feel complicit. And so
Mhm.
he started drinking that night. He ended up going on this, like, 2-hour-long tangent, just berating me about how I'm so bad. I have 40 minutes of it on recording. Like, I still have the recording of him berating me for an hour, or 40 minutes of it. And, what ultimately ended up happening is while in the middle of him yelling at me, he started grabbing me by the throat. Like, he would intermittently grab me and, like, hold me down on the couch for, like, maybe 3 seconds each time, right? And that is your abuser demonstrating power and control over you. It's
Mhm.
strangulation. So they're demonstrating, like, basically be quiet, but they're doing it such that if they're not holding you for a super long time, you're questioning, "What was that?" If he didn't hold me for
Mhm.
a really long time, what was that? But that does count with the strangulation statistic. You're
Mhm.
750% more likely to be killed by your abuser after they put their hands on your throat or after they have put their hands over your mouth. If they are demonstrating in any way that they are impeding your breath, that's what falls under that statistic. A sleeper hold,
Wow.
so he would intermittently just do that. And that like really, really scared me. But I
Of
still
course.
thought, like, well, because he was doing it while he was angry. And I thought, like, okay, I gotta get out of our apartment. Like, let me just get in my car. Maybe I can just go for a drive. I'll stay at my friend's house. Like, I don't want to be around him anymore while he's drunk. And he wouldn't let me like leave the space. So I tried to walk past him to get my car keys. And he told me if I walked past where he was sitting, he was like sitting on the couch. He said, if you walk past me, you're going to get kicked. I remember him saying, I'm going to kick you. And he started kicking his legs at me. So now I'm like stuck against the wall. I can't walk past him to simply leave without further incident. And I'm standing against the wall, like near the front door, but I didn't feel like I could run for it because I felt like I just had this eerie feeling that he was gonna do something physical, more physical than he already did.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he jumps up off the couch. He weighs like 220 pounds. He's like 6'1", right? He's a big guy. So he jumps off the couch and punches the wall right next to my head. It looked like he was coming directly at me. He punches the wall, and I run out of the apartment in my socks. I wasn't wearing like a coat or anything, and we were living far up north. And he locked me out of the apartment at that point. And I just remember thinking, he's going to come back out here and come after me, or I'm going to have to go back in the apartment and be alone with him again, where he's
Yeah.
just been physical with me. So I ended up ringing our neighbor's doorbell, who I did not know. I didn't know our neighbors at all. And I just said, like, I need to come in. My I just need to come in. And they thought I was someone setting them up. You know how when someone rings your doorbell and there's
Yeah.
people waiting? There's
Yeah, and
people
you're not
waiting.
supposed to open the door for them? Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
thought it was. And I'm
I
like,
bet.
and finally they recognized me. I'm like, I've lived a couple doors down from you, whatever. We were in like an apartment complex. And then my ex like got in my car. He realized I was gone. He got in my vehicle, started drunk driving, vomited all over the interior of my car, all over the exterior of my car. Just like disgusting. And when he came back, he realized the police were there because I had called 911 from the neighbor's house because they basically gave me no other choice. You have to
Yeah.
call, we can't unsee this now.
Right.
But I didn't have any marks on my body because when they often put their hands on your throat, there's not marks. And he had punched the wall next to me, not me. He told me he was going to kick the crap out of me, but he didn't actually kick me. So
Yeah.
when the police came, he said, no, she actually threw up on me. And that's why I'm covered in throw up. He said, she's been acting crazy. He said, she's been drinking tonight too. And she actually threw up on her car and on me. Thankfully, the police realized that was false. But that's what I mean by as drunk as he claimed to be, it was like the moment
Yeah.
they show up, he has a perfect story. Um,
All because he just wanted to see if he could have one drink.
yeah,
It's crazy.
exactly.
How many times did he go to rehab? He knows you don't do that. It's
But
not
that
even an
was his
option.
plan.
Yeah.
See, the plan was always proposing it to me as I'll just have one drink, and
Yeah.
then it turned into everything he wanted it to turn into.
Yeah.
So he got arrested for he ended up getting charged with a misdemeanor, but he was arrested for aggravated assault that night. And it got dropped to one misdemeanor for domestic violence assault, and he also got charged with violation of bail conditions, which was another misdemeanor because he violated the no contact order.
Oh, geez.
But I the victim, my mentality was, oh my gosh, I've got to tell the police like that I'm not sure how bad this was. I immediately started covering for him. I don't know. I don't know if it was that bad. But they were trained properly in domestic violence. So they expected that from me. That's the
Mhm.
importance of being trained in DV.
Yeah.
Officers have to expect a victim to struggle to recollect what happened. They should expect the victim to not trust their own inner recollection of what just happened. That is
Right.
part of it. Um, so thankfully, they saw the hole in the wall. Everything I had described to them was like exactly in line with what they saw. And I
Yeah.
told them he put his hands on my throat 3 times, and you know, but I still was like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel so bad.
Well, yeah,
So,
most victims, you're worried about what happens after,
yeah.
like what the consequences are gonna be for you even saying anything.
Yeah. And I struggled after that. I actually broke through the no contact order as well. Like when he tried to reach out to me, I was actively talking to him again, actively promising I was going to come back and stay with him. I was
Oh,
actively back in it already. And so I had moved back home with my family, and I tried to lie to them and say, I'm just back home because I'm just visiting. Like I
oh,
tried.
jeez.
And
Yeah.
they ended up finding out that wasn't true. And then I said, I'm going to go back to him whether you like it or not. Like, get back, stay away from me. I mean, I was like still in active addiction mode.
Yeah.
But my ultimate light bulb moment was that I realized if I went back to him again, his next order of business was going to be, okay, we have to get pregnant now. We have to have a baby now. Because that was his big
Yes.
thing. He was always saying, I want you to get pregnant right now. It always had to be like that I was this terrible woman for wanting to like wait for that because that's their temperature check on you. If they're abusive, they're going to be like, well, why? Why? Because that's how they measure like how committed you are to them.
Mhm.
And he sees it as you having an easier way out if you're not pregnant with his child. He wanted that link to me forever.
Right.
So the fact that I was already away from him and I had a no contact order, which I knew I was never going to get that opportunity again. Like I have this order that I
Yeah.
can use to detox from him. And that was my moment. I was like, if I go back, I'm committing to a lifetime of having children with him because that's going to be the first thing he makes sure happens.
Thank God you processed that and thought of that, though. That's a lot of
Yeah.
strength, especially at that point with everything that was going on. That's a lot for you to process that and think about it and to actually act on it. That's a lot of
Yeah.
strength.
But the only reason I processed it is because he was such a loud mouth about it. I mean, it was constant harping on me about you need to get pregnant now. You need to let me get you pregnant. That's always the language he would use. I want to like impregnate you. It was so vile. Like who says that?
Yeah.
I want to it was all about him putting his mark on me and marking his territory on me. That's why in domestic violence, they often get offended by if you want to use measures of birth control, whether using a condom or using birth control. They're very offended by that because it's
Mhm.
like, well, why? You're my territory. Why are you putting like a boundary in place? They
Right.
hate boundaries.
Like, you are not telling me no. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
not holding on to any autonomy.
Right.
I didn't wanna be on birth control, so that was confusing for me. I just personally didn't wanna be on it, and so I was always at risk for getting pregnant by him instantly.
Yeah.
It was like an impossible situation, and the way I actually got out of it, and this is a word for anybody who feels guilty about being strategic, I want you to hear this. Pay attention to how this unfolded. The way I actually got out from under him, since I had now reinitiated, okay, I promise I'm going to come back. We were now talking every single day again through the no contact order. I had to create some kind of new boundary line to like almost test him. So, what I did was I said, you know what? I said to my ex, I said, I'm still struggling with trusting you fully after our domestic incident. I said, I really want you to follow your no contact order because that would really show me that you're actually a man of your word if you're willing to follow your court order. That would really prove to me that you are changed. But I knew he was going to violate it, right? So I had to set some kind of new boundary line to then make myself feel like I had a new reason to leave. Technically, I could have at any moment said, "This is not for me and I am leaving you," right? That would have been completely. Um, Made complete sense, but as a victim of abuse, I just felt like I needed to see that side of him one more time to prove to me he was still
Yeah.
bad. And so, sure enough, he just continued to violate my boundary after that. He would text me, "Oh, mail came to the house. I just wanna let you know you got mail," right? Just little steps
Mhm.
over it. "Oh, you got a toll bill from your car in the mail. I just wanted to let you know." And I would just simply restate, "I asked you to follow your no contact order." And what I was doing was that now was acting as documentation. So anytime you are texting with them, you wanna respond as if this could be shown in court. So I would say, "I asked you to follow your court order." That would be my only response to him, right? And then
Good
he
for
would
you.
he would text me and say, "Oh my gosh, I just got in a almost got in an accident on the highway at my job. I just wanted to tell you I love you. I'm so like it was so scary." I would say, "I asked you to follow your court order. I don't care what happened. I don't care," because he would fake emergencies
Right. Sure.
to violate it. So after about like 5 or 6 times of that, I said one night, "You know what? I'm gonna report him again," knowing he would get arrested. Because I warned him now like 5 times, "Follow your order." And so that night, I called the non-emergency line in our county that we were living in, and I said, "I have a no contact order against my husband. He's violating the order, and I have the screenshots to show you." They had me send the screenshots over email to an officer. The officer arrested him within probably an hour and a half. I'm not kidding. They
Wow.
were so on the ball. They did it
That's
like right away
amazing.
that night.
Yes.
We lived in a really small county, a really small town, so I think that had a big part to play. Really,
Yeah.
like everybody knew each other. But they arrested him for violation of bail conditions. That's what they're doing. They're violating their bail. And after that point, that's what got him to stop contacting me because now he knew, "Oh, I'm gonna actually call the police."
Yeah.
And that allowed me, I basically just used my no contact order to like literally detox from him. So now that he couldn't contact me, I could actually detach without him like, I love you, I'm sorry, it's never gonna happen again."
Right.
That's how I did it, you know?
Wow. Oh my gosh, everybody must be so proud of you, like your family and everyone that you just decided it and did it.
It was kind of I had to make the decision on my own because even my counselor, my therapist at the time was like, "Well, I'll let you decide. You do what." She wasn't so strong like, "Yeah, report him. He's violating
Yes.
the no contact." I mean, I had to be my own biggest cheerleader. And I just I knew if I didn't do that, there was no way I wasn't going to like succumb to his manipulation again. So, for anybody who's feeling guilty about thinking, "I don't know, is it bad that I'm like being strategic on him?" There's no other
Hell no.
way to get
Yeah.
out.
Right.
There's no other way. And um, I also really wish people realize that them stalking you doesn't always look like them saying like vile things over text. Stalking often looks like, "I don't want to get a divorce because I don't believe in divorce," and then followed by, "Answer me, answer me, answer me. Come on, I already told you I was sorry. We need to have one last meetup for me to tell you to your face. We need to have a closure talk." Like, they'll often be saying things that appear tempting to, like, maybe I do owe him that. That's
Right.
also them stalking you. The repetitive, unwanted contact
Mhm.
is stalking.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand that.
They don't. Um, there's this woman who suffered a terrible attack from her former husband. His last messages to her before that, and she survived, but his last messages were, "I don't really believe in divorce. I just don't believe in it. I think we should work on things, followed by texts that were saying, please answer me. Like I just said, please answer me, please answer me. And then that's when he did the worst to her. When his
Yeah.
text seemed like he wasn't even necessarily name calling her, but it's the repetitive, unwanted, the persistence.
They can't handle that loss of control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so proud of you. That's just wow.
Yeah. And there
That
were
takes a
times
lot.
when yeah, there were times when I was just sitting in my car and I called the domestic violence hotline and I would just ask them like, "Am I overreacting?" I would tell them a little bit of our history together and I just needed that constant reassurance that I
Mhm.
hadn't blown things out of proportion.
Right.
Um, a lot of women's biggest struggle is, well, my husband or boyfriend, they've never cheated on me. They don't do drugs. They don't drink, but I feel like they might be abusing me. That's a huge struggle.
Mhm.
Constantly comparing your story to other people's. But just because my story does involve the drug use, um, that last incident that was an assault, and it does involve cheating, th- nine, like so many of them, probably a much larger percentage, don't do any of that stuff, but they're
Right.
still super abusive. And I think that's actually like the worst case when they just seem like an upstanding guy and they're just constantly covertly manipulating you.
Yes. I think they're the scariest. For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And I like, the one point that well, I mean, there's been so many great points just in your story to educate people, like what you said as far as don't tell them you're leaving because I mean, we've had people on the podcast even talking about their situations and they had told them that they were leaving and they were grave situations afterwards.
Exactly. And
Scary.
only one of two things can happen. Either you tell them they're leaving and that's their cue to put on their best mask, their best
Yes.
behavior to suck you back in, which is equally as hard to get away from, or that creates the most dangerous time frame for you then because now it's a total loss of control and they're going to escalate. But normally I would say they use it as a cue to act like, oh, you're just about to miss out. You walk away this time, I'm going to be the best guy you've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's what they'll tell you. So telling them has no benefit to you. The only way to successfully do it is to really just cut it harsh. You got to cut them off so
Right.
cold.
Right. I know a lot of people will say that they tell them because they have kids or what
Yeah.
it's not worth it. It's not worth what that outcome can be.
And at the very least, never do it alone in your home.
Yeah.
Nothing has to be done in the privacy of your home. So
Right.
if you must alert them to something for some reason, I don't know what the different cases could be, you got to be blatantly in public. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking like somewhere in public.
Right.
Don't do anything in the privacy of your home where you think you owe them this sit down talk.
Mhm. Oh yeah, they want one last chance to manipulate you or hurt you.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Wow, what a
again, with
story, Grace.
with the incident with the in regards to strangulation, I just want people to see how that act was demonstrated to me in this intermittent pattern where he started putting his hands on my throat. Okay. But and so that fell into those statistics where that now showed me my danger level with him because he was showing me he was willing to exert power and control over me in that way. So, for anybody who's confused about strangulation, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be hands around the throat and they're holding for a certain amount of time. People have this understanding of it that is like too in this specific box. It could even be them pushing your face against a bed. Like if they are demonstrating restricting your breathing, that is not normal. So that's
Mhm.
what I want people to know.
Right. Wow, what a story. It's just very inspiring, and I'm so glad that you shared it because there's just so many points throughout your story where, you were able to say, "Well, don't do this, and this is what I did, and this is why you feel this way." And I'm so thankful you shared it because I think it'll help a lot of people.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me and Anybody can listen to my podcast, Why She Stayed, for other survivor stories,
Yes.
and I just host whoever has a story.
Yeah, and
So,
we'll make sure we put all your links in the description too so people can reach you.
yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Thanks
And
so much.
yeah, I just want people to see that theme of pressure, the theme
Yes.
of we need to hurry up and move things along, and
Mhm.
it's that was the abuse. So,
Yeah, like
thank
I
you so
said, you have
much.
so many amazing points that you make throughout your own story that I just know it's gonna help so many people that are probably stuck, and they're stuck in it, so far in it right now, and they just need to hear this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.